Hello guys, how are you all? Hope you all are doing well. And I guess as you have clicked this video, you know that I'm today here to teach you all how to win with the pawn and king endgame. So in this video, here white is with a king and a pawn, and black is only with a king. So there are many strategies that you must know so that in the game, if you are winning, you may not draw, and if you are losing, then how to draw so that there will be not your deduction in the rating in your elo rating. So let's start quickly to the video, and as in the screen you may be seeing that this is most of the case you get when you are in a pawn and king endgame. So in this video, this is all about this. And before starting, I want to tell you one thing: what is opposition? So let me tell you what opposition is. Like in this situation, both the kings are standing facing towards each other. Then the white king is not allowing the black to come here, and black is not allowing the white to come here. So this is only what is called opposition, and the one who gains an opposition wins the match. So in this type of situation, the person who will gain the opposition will win the match. So in this situation, let's say it's a black's turn and black goes here. So if white can come here and does not allow black to go in any of the case near to the pawn or near to the king, then white is gaining the opposition. So if the king moves back, white can again come here and then again gain the opposition. So this is what opposition is called. And in this now comes to the end game strategies, where this is the situation where there are two chances. If black has to move, then it's a win for the white, and if there is a white to move, then it is a draw. If there is a possibility that all the moves will be the best moves, means both the players know the strategy, then only this is a draw. Otherwise, in the game, whoever knows the strategy, it will win. So in many of the cases, I know that many of the players who are learning chess try to learn the openings or middle game strategies, but they find end games slightly boring and do not study them. So those who study endgame, now here's the point that endgame study will be beneficial. So let us start the study, where let me show you how it's a draw if it's a white's turn. So if it's a white's turn, then what are the strategies by the black so he can draw? So let's say it's a white's turn and white has to clear the way for the pawn. So white comes here, and then if you want as a black to draw the game, then the clear strategy is to gain the opposition for the white. So let's say white has moved, so you will come here and block the white from moving forward. So he cannot move forward, and if he decides to move the pawn, push the pawn, then if he pushes single pawn or double pawn, whatever he does, you have to just play here and put your king in front of the pawn. So now what white can do? So white can simply come here, or if he goes anywhere else, like let's say he goes to c4, then we will capture the pawn. So he has only one square, that is e3. And now what you have to do is not go here or here. You have to make a simple strategy to be in front of the pawn and move backwards. So in this situation, you will come to e6, and now white has two choices, either to come here and here. Wherever he plays, he comes here. What you will do? You will simply bring your king to the opposition square for the king. So what's the opposition square for black? It's the f6, because now they are both facing towards each other, and black has gained the position. So if you have gained the position, so what the white can do? White can either go away or push the pawn forward. So going away is not a good option. So he will obviously push the pawn, and if he pushes the pawn, you have to just bring your king in front of the pawn. So let's say if this case is repeated, so what you will do again, gain the opposition, and if the pawn moves, and let me show you how it's a draw. And as of strategy, you will push your king back to the pawn where it was, and if the king tries to move, you will gain the opposition, and in this way the king can't move forward because you have gained the opposition. Now he cannot come to these squares. So if he tries to push forward, you can simply again block the king, and if he comes here, then it will be a stalemate because king has no squares to move because all these squares are covered. So this is what the gaining an opposition means. So now let me tell you how can a white win when it's white's turn and black is not getting the opposition. So let's come back to that position. So now in this case, it's a black's turn first to move, and then I will show you, if you do the correct moves and have a strategy in mind that of the end games, then you will win. Because now it's a black's turn, and blacks can go either this way or this way or this way. Anyway he goes, you have to simply go to other side where the king has moved and come here. Now you have made a path for the pawn, and now if the black tries to come closer, you can simply push forward, and if he tries to go upwards, then again you have to not push forward the pawn. If you are pushing forward the pawn, then the game will again be a draw. So in this case, what you have to do is not to push forward and again gain the opposition. Now the king can't come near closer, so he will again move. If he moves backwards, again you have to push forward, and if he moves sideways, then you have to again come here and wait for the king to move. Now the king will try to protect this square for, because this is the promotion square for the pawn. And what we will try? We will try to cover this square for pawn to promote. So in this case, if the king comes here, then again we have to cover this square for the promotion. And if king tries to come near to the pawn, we will just march ahead. And if he comes here, again we cannot march ahead because he will capture it. So we will bring back our king. So he cannot come here and here. Again, if he tries to go forward, you have no problem. You can just push forward the pawn. And if he tries to block this promotion square, what you have to do? You have to gain the position. So if you want to gain the position, what you have to do? You do not have to push forward the pawn, because if you try to push forward, what he will do? He will simply come here, and now he has gained the position. Now if you come here, he will simply come here, and if you go away, he can simply capture. And if you try to cover the pawn, then this is a stalemate. Why? Because you are covering the same previous situation, you are covering both the squares. So in this situation, if the king comes in front of the promotion square, you have to gain the opposition. That's the important thing. What I'm teaching you from the starting, you have to do is you have to gain the opposition by the black. Now wherever the black moves, either here or here, wherever he moves, you can simply cover this, defend this square from the king. And now if the king wants to come closer, you can give check. And now all these three squares are covered, so king cannot attack this pawn when it is going to promote. So after this, again check, and he tries to escape, and you can now easily promote to a queen. And those who all you do not know how to checkmate with the queen and king, so it's a easy strategy. I will make a video on that also, so that those who do not know can learn easily. And here it's a pawn game, so let us study about the pawn. So let's come to second situation. So this is the case where the king is behind the pawn. In the previous tutorial, king was in front of pawn, and that was the other case. And in this case, the king is behind the pawn. So in this case, it's every time a draw if the black plays correctly, and you have no option to win this match if black has known the correct strategy. And as I told you, most of the players do not know how to play correctly and draw the game. So if black doesn't know the correct strategy, then it will be a win for white. Otherwise, it's a draw. Let me show you whether it's a black's turn or it's a white's turn, how it is a draw. So let's say here it's a white's turn. If white has to move, so if white comes here to push forward the pawn, simply, what is the black's turn? Black's turn is to gain the opposition. And by coming to this square, he is now gaining the opposition from the white's king. So now white cannot move. Obviously he will push forward, and if he push forward, we will simply come here. And now as the game goes, you have to simply, if you are playing as a black, what you have to do in this case, when the king comes behind the pawn, you have to simply push forward and be in line with the pawn. So if the pawn moves, you can simply take it. So he will not push the pawn, obviously. So if he comes again closer to the king, then you again have to gain the opposition, and do not let the king try to come forward and go ahead the pawn. If he is here and pushes the pawn, then what you have to do? You have to again come in front of the pawn, and king cannot come here. If he goes here, then the pawn will be chopped up. So he has to again defend his pawn. And now again you have to be in line with the pawn. So again, if this goes on, then the end game will be this here. And now if the king comes, you will gain the position. And again, if the pawn moves, you will just come in front, so letting the pawn to promote. And king has no squares to move, he cannot come here. And if he tries to come here, then this will be a stalemate, because all the squares are covered by pawn and king. So this was the case when it was the white's turn. Now let's say what will happen if it's the black's turn. So let us go back and see. Now it's black's turn to move. So in this case, if black's turn, then black will simply come and be in touch with the pawn. Now again the king will come here, and you will simply go back. And if king tries to come closer, then you will gain the opposition. So this will all be going on until black knows the correct strategy. Now if in this case, what if black tries to not come here and go back and cover this promotion square e8? So if he goes here, now what you have to do? Now in this case, you will simply put your king in front of the black's king, and now it's the black's turn. So who has gained the opposition? It's you who have gained the opposition. So in this case, black cannot come here, and either whatever way he goes, you have to just go opposite to that. And now you have cleared your square for the pawn to promote, and now he cannot attack this pawn because it is defended by the king. And if he moves, then you can simply promote and make a queen. And now once it's a queen, it's an easy win. So you can win by the rook also, but queen, it will be an easy task. So this was all about the end game where the pawn strategy works. Thank you.